We're going to be talking about component communication in Angular. There are a couple of concepts we can use to demonstrate component communication. We can use signal, we can use services, we can use input and output decorators and the likes. So in this tutorial, we're going to be demonstrating Angular component communication using inputs and output decorators. So let me zoom this in. Now, when we implement inputs and outputs decorator approach, we have this architecture, this application flow where our parent component communicates with the child component, and then we use an input decorator. So this input decorator is used to pass data. So the parent component uses the input decorator to pass data to the child component, and now the child component in turn uses the output decorator to emit an event. So it uses event emitter to send data from the child to the parent. So basically, this is how the application flow is. In subsequent tutorials, we're going to be talking about service and the likes, but in this tutorial, we're going to be focusing on input and output decorators. So here we have this counter app. We're going to be demonstrating this input and output component communication with this counter app. At the minute, it's not doing anything. So if you click this, it's not doing anything. So it's just like that. So I have it running on localhost 4200. So I'm using ngserve to boot this up, to serve it on this local host. And then I have not opened Visual Studio Code, so I should open Visual Studio Code to open the code. So I'm on Angular standalone. Angular standalone. I want to show you. So this is my folder, Angular series. So if you look at here, I'm running this. I've set into Angular series, and then I'm serving this with this ngserve script. In my case, I'm preparing it with npx because I don't have Angular CLI installed globally on my machine. I explained a bit about that in our previous video. So I'm going to minimize this. Guys, leave me alone. Alright, so this is our code at the minute. We have three components: counter control, navbar, and then our top level component, which is app.ts. So at the minute, this is what we have. And then our template is app.html. So in our app.ts is our parent component, and counter control, this is our child component, and this is the navbar. So inside our app.ts, the template, which is app.html, as specified here, this is a selector approach. This approach is inside this index.html. So this is where this is the root of our component here using this selector. Now let's go back to app.ts. Inside our app.ts, we are using two components, navbar and counter control. So we are importing them inside this import array. So in our template, which is this, with this template URL property, when we go here, so we have our navbar here. Our navbar, if you look at our navbar component, it has the selector known as app navbar. So wherever we're using this navbar component, we use this selector to reference it. Okay, and this navbar also has its own template. So we're making use of navbar in our app component template. So this is the selector here, and then we also have our own we have the template for the app component itself, and then in here we have the counter control selector. So this belongs to our counter control component. If you look at here, the selector is app counter control. So wherever we're making use of this, the child components, we have to reference it with this selector, app counter control. So we're passing it into the parent component via the template. So this is it here. So we have some CSS. This is the CSS for our navbar, and then for our app.css, this is the CSS for app.css for our app component and of our app template. And then for our counter control, we also have the templates here and the CSS. So this is the CSS here. So we're going to be writing the logic in our component class. So the way our application is going to work is our app component, which is our parent component, is going to manage our count state, and then so we're going to implement that here later on. And then our navbar component, which is a sibling or child component, is going to display our real-time notification. Later on we're going to, so for now we have batch 0, and then we just have this notification icon. And then our counter control component is also a child component that is going to send increment, decrement, and reset signal to the parent. So without much ado, let's get started. Let's start with a navbar component, and let's see how we might implement this. So in a navbar component, this app navbar.ts, we're going to call the input decorator. So the input decorator, like we said, is used by the parent to send data to the child component. So here we can have inputs, then we have notification count. Notification count, we're going to set that to 0. We're on TypeScript, so type number. Okay, so I have to import this. So it's been imported. So now this input decorator is going to be our parent component, which is app.cs, is going to use this to pass data to this navbar eventually. So for now it is set at 0 notification count. Okay, now we have to take the input from, we have to display this input in our component here, so in our template, sorry. So we have to go back here, and then here, instead of span set to 0, we have to use this notification count property, or is a variable now, this one. So let me just copy this notification count, and then I'm going to paste it in here. So our template syntax here for, okay, so this is going to be set to 0. Then we want a conditional rendering. We want a situation where we want to render this if the notification count is greater than 0. So to do that, we're going to be making use of the ng if directive. So because of that, I've imported common module here. So with this common module, we can make use of the ng if directive. So I'm going to go back here, and then here I'm going to do ng if, and then here I'm going to do notification count is greater than 0. So when notification count is greater than 0, that's when we display this notification count. So that's about it for our navbar component. Now let's go to another child component, which is our counter control component. Let's go to the class counter control.ts. Now remember we said this is going to emit events. It's going to emit increment, decrement, and the reset like that, and then pass it to the parent component. So we're going to make use of the output decorator here, which is going to take an event emitter and then possibly pass some payload using a special variable $event. Okay, so now let's use our output here, and then let's set this to count changed, and then we set this to new event emitter. We're on Angular, so let's set the type of data we're emitting, so it's number. All right. Another output event we would like to emit is let's look outputs. Let's have reset requested. So this is on a new event emitter. So the event emitter, we emit events to our parent component, which is the app component. Okay, so now let's set some methods. We can do change value. So for our change value, it takes an input, call it data, and then the type is number, and then here this is just going to update our state. So this dot count changed, it's going to emit it, and then we're going to pass whatever inputs this method takes here. So this change value is going to be used to emit increment or decrement when our counter changes, or when our count change. So here we're going to have another method, reset, and then this is just going to reset. So this dot reset requested dot emit. So this is going to reset our counter. All right. So since this is a child component, we have to pass it into our parent component, emit this event in our parent component. But before we do that, let's undo some business in our template here. Okay, now in our template we're going to undo some click events. So here let's have this click event here for the decrement click. Okay, so this click event is going to fire a function here. So the function is going to fire is this change value, this one. So let's go back here and then let's do change value. So here, since we're decrementing, let's pass -1 here, and here too I need to be careful here. And then here we also pass another click event, and then here we're gonna also pass change value, and then here we're going to just pass 1. So this is going to increment, this one is going to decrement. Now for our reset, we're going to fire this reset method. So let's go back here, and then here we can do click, and then let's fire the reset function like so. So this is going to reset our counter. Let me just call this reset counter. Okay, so that's going to reset our counter. That's all there is to our counter control component. Now let's go to our parent component, which is the app.ts component. Now remember, our child component, this is going to emit these 2 events to our parent and possibly pass a payload, which we're going to capture later on. So let's go to app.ts. So we're going to handle this in our class. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, we want to set a counter variable. So we're going to say current count equals to 0, like that. Now we're also going to we're going to create some methods. So the first one is going to be undo update. So for undo update, we take an input, the type is number, and then here we can do this dot current count. So it's going to update our current count. So we're going to set this to max. So it's a JavaScript utility function or method, if you like. We start from 0, and then we do this dot current count plus the value of our input delta. Okay. Now for the undo reset, this is just going to reset our count. So this is this dot current count. We're going to just reset to 0, like so. Okay. Now having done this, we need to take care of some business in our template as well. Remember, this is our parent component, and then here in our template we have navbar and then app counter control. So let's undo our navbar first. Inside our navbar, remember we have an input decorator here called notification count, and we said this is used by our parent component to pass data to our child components. Now this is our child component, and then we are using it inside our parent template here. So here app.ts is able to pass data to the navbar using the navbar selector here. So here we can just, the name of the data is notification count, this one. Okay, at the minute set to 0, so let's go back here, and then we have to set this to current count. So this current count is what we have here, this one. Okay, so let's go back to our app.html. So I think that's it for our navbar. Now here we have to handle some business in our app counter control, but then before we do that, let's also pass current count here. So here we can pass current count, this one. Okay, So we pass it here. Now we need to handle some business here as well, which is our child components, the selector for our child component counter control. So we need to handle some business here as well, so that our parent component can pass data. Or no, this is emitting. Yeah, this is emitting event. So this is it's using this event emitter to emit event to the parent via this app.html template. So the first event we're going to emit is known as count changed. Count changed. This one, count change. We're also going to emit this one as well. So let's go back here, count change, and for the count change, it's going to take where's app.cs, this one, and the updates. So when that event is emitted, this function will fire. So let's go back here, and then we're going to pass undo update here, and then this special variable is going to pass the payload from the child to the parents. This okay. Another event we want to emit is a reset. This one, what is it? Reset requested. Let me just copy it, and then here app.html, just gonna paste it here. Okay, and then we're gonna pass undo reset. That's from the parent here. So this doesn't take any payload like that. So here, this undo reset. So this reset our counter, like so. So I think that's all for what we have here. I think we're done. So let me just save everything, and let's see whether we get any errors. Okay, so everything works from this point of view. And let's go back to our application. I'm going to refresh. All right, so let's try. Okay, so it's updating real time here. Remember, if I refresh, we're not persisting in local storage, so current count is 0. We set this what is it called? We set this condition, so we only want to render if notification count is greater than 0. So at the minute, notification count is 0. So this is just, it's not the badge is not displaying yet. So when we increase, now it's displaying 2, 3, 4. Now we can decrement as well. Goes back to 0. You can also do this, and then let's try for the reset counter. Okay, so this reset back to 0. Guys, our counter app is working as we expected. So this is it for this demonstration. We're going to implement another concept to explain and drill these Angular components communication in properly in subsequent tutorials. So I'm going to stop here for now. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.